tick mark came.
I think somebody has to switch. Yeah, put it in mute mode. Thank you. Okay. So now, yesterday there was a question about variables. I have given some example, but I thought of giving a pictorial representation so that you will get a clarity. So after this, then I'll take you to the hypothesis also. See, here I have given a topic, a research topic, the impact of YouTube videos and pronunciation. It means that is there any impact of YouTube video when a sample respondents are watching the YouTube videos? We are going to measure, are there any improvements? So that is the thing. So here there are two variables. First of all, if you take the experimental research design, which I introduced you during the research design lecture, in the experimental design, you have an experimental group and control group. So normally in the experimental group only you will give intervention. Intervention means you will give your input. Control group will be there with a normal routine routine practice. They'll go ahead. So here you have experimental group and control group, and within this, which group you will give YouTube videos. That's what YouTube video is, the intervention here. So you have two variables. One is independent variable and dependent variable. That is, YouTube video is one variable. Pronunciation is the another variable. So now you need to know clearly which is independent, which is dependent. So here clearly you have to have a clear idea about, see, normally, if you take the normally independent variable will be the fixed one. You know? They'll not depend upon anything. But whereas dependent variable will always create a cause on the independent variable. Here, pronunciation is the fixed phenomenon. Here, it is independent. YouTube video is the dependent. Why? Can you give some idea? Can someone tell me why it is like that? Just to get a fair idea about it, just you come out of with certain idea so that you can get a better clarity.
Sir, my name is Mahesh.
Yes, Mahesh, please go ahead.
Sir, dependent variable is that whose values is dependent on the another variable.
Very good, perfect.
It is always vary, and it is a variable which can be affected by the dependent variable, independent variable.
Very good, super, Mahesh. Can you now tell me here in this particular topic which is dependent, which is independent? You have a two variable. One is YouTube video, another one is pronunciation. Can you fit into that particular category and you tell me? Yes.
Yes. Sir, we have studied the impact of YouTube videos in pronunciation. The pronunciation is the independent variable and YouTube is the dependent. Pronunciation is the dependent variable and YouTube is the independent variable, because whenever we take the content from the YouTube videos, then we change our pronunciation. The pronunciation is changing because of it is a dependent variable and YouTube is the independent variable.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Mahesh.
Thank you, sir.
Clearly he has put it in a right sense. So independent variable, it functions what you call without any dependence. Whereas dependent variable, it needs certain things. So here, pronunciation can change. YouTube video will never change. YouTube video is a one phenomenon. Pronunciation, because you watch YouTube videos, your pronunciation will improve. You listen to your teacher, your pronunciation will improve. Use dictionary, your pronunciation will improve. Use web series, watch web series, your pronunciation will improve. So here the pronunciation is the constant phenomenon. It is getting affected by YouTube video, web series, newspaper reading, or dictionary usage. So these web series, newspaper reading, and dictionary usage, all these things are independent. That create in another word, one creates cause, another one gives effect. So the effect here is cause is YouTube video. The effect, what kind of effect happens in the pronunciation? We tend to make sure that it improves the pronunciation. Now let us take the one more topic in the business sector. The impact of online reviews okay, we'll have it like this. the impact of customer reviews in online sales or in a general sales. The impact of the customer reviews or a rating, star rating in the in what you call the sales. So here, which one is dependent, which one is independent? Someone else from commerce background, you can you can pitch in, you can answer me.
So online sales.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Continue, madam. Continue, madam. Continue.
Okay, I'm Dr. Sapna, and I think online sales, they depend on customer ratings.
Okay.
If there is a rating, let's say 1 to 5, and if it's 4 or 4.8 or above 4, people will buy that particular product more. So the sales will increase. So I think online sales are dependent on customer ratings. And
very good, very good. Yes, online sales is dependent on customer rating. Here, online sales becomes dependent on independent variable here, customer rating, because it is not only a customer rating. It may go, you can give us sample products, or you can go ahead with the discounts. You can go ahead with the big billion discounts, or probably you say that free installation, warranty, and you say that user experience. There are products, they'll give you chance, you can use it, and refundable or non-refundable. These are the factors, it will affect the online sales. So these are the independent variable. Online sales is the dependent variable. So that's a basic thing, because someone asked me yesterday, how can I decide variable? So now, everybody knows that customer rating is the base for the online sales. Are there any other variables can be studied or can be used to prove that also can affect the sales? That can be taken. Based on that, you can bring in a new what you call variable, because already existing things are there, something which are already available. But as a researcher, you can bring in a new innovation thing. You can say that some other component can be also part of it. You can add those independent variable also in your study. In that way, you can decide. Most of the time, independent variable will be one. Independent variable will be many. Dependent variable will be only one. That is pronunciation and online sale. That will take only one thing. But whereas we'll study the pronunciation through YouTube videos, or as I already told you, the dictionary and other things. So you keep those things in your mind clearly. Now, are you clear about what is variable? Variable is a phenomenon. It can be a person, thing, or a particular idea. It can be anything. So we will decide based on the field you work on that. And decision to add variables, many independent variables, it will be based on the research objectives. See here, as I already told you with the giving an example, pronunciation. I have already told you the dictionary, reading, listening to lecture, web series. Can you tell me, are there any other innovative variables, independent variable can be added to either improve the pronunciation or study the pronunciation? This is how you need to think to add, to select the variable for your research. I am taking this as an example. See, I have told you all the frequently used to independent variable. Now, as a researcher, you tell me, because even though this topic belongs to English department, but pronunciation is a common one to everybody. So you tell me, what are the other factors can be added to develop pronunciation, to study the impact of the pronunciation because of that particular independent variable?
So daily practice is required for the improve the pronunciation.
Very good, beautiful. Yeah, daily practice, because here we are not going to study anything else. Just somebody says that I'm practicing daily certain words, and finally we'll measure the pronunciation through certain questionnaire. Is there an impact? Very good. Daily practice. Good then.
Excuse me, sir. Even
Yes.
the native language and the exposure to the place can affect the pronunciation.
Very good. Then you can say that exposure to the language. Probably Are you living in a native country, or the language which they speak? Are you living in that particular place? Obviously, that may be, it is indirectly that may influence the pronunciation. Very good. Good. Then one more response. Then we'll go to the next one. Okay. So this is how you need to think, identify the various factors, then you can add as a normal variable. See, if you take, let me give a common another phenomenon. Whatever the study you do, be it commerce or business, English, in English, especially ELT, if you do that, we call it as a demographic profile. Demographic profile, it gives certain demographic information about a sample, that is a respondent. For instance, about the parent's education, about the locality, whether he belongs to rural part or urban part, then the medium of study, English medium or native language medium, then board of study, is it CBSE board, state board, or IGSE board. Then you take about the parents' education. Specifically, you can measure mother's education and father's education. These are so many independent variables, again, that may affect the pronunciation. How? A student who has studied in a CBSE board definitely will have better exposure than who has studied in a state board. Similarly, a student who hails from rural area may be deprived of the exposure level compared to the urban student. And the student who has educated parents will have better exposure in language, as his parents are educated. They may use language English in their normal conversation, whereas other student may not have. So based on this kind of demographic, you can add many independent variables. This is a common one tip to add more variables. Apart from that, as I asked you the question, somebody told me daily practice and other things. Just you have to think in the terms of what are the other features may really affect the particular independent dependent variable. Then you can add more things. This is how you need to select the variables for your study. Am I making sense? Is it clear up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Now let us move to the hypothesis now, because if you know that only, it will be useful. So yesterday, since I didn't show you the PowerPoint, so you could have not understood. That's why I brought a PowerPoint, then I explained so that better clarity will be there. That's why I did that. Now, see, hypothesis is very simple. If you put it in a very plain statement, it's a prediction. That's it. It's a prediction. So it is a tentative answer to the research question, but it is not tested. For instance, I'm saying that YouTube videos will give a positive impact on pronunciation. This is my tentative prediction. But do I have a sufficient data, statistical analysis to prove my statement? That is what called hypothesis testing. Yeah, hypothesis can be tested using the statistical procedure, whether my hypothesis either can be accepted or rejected. If it is accepted, it is called alternate hypothesis. If it is rejected, it is called null hypothesis. That is, there are different ways of writing hypothesis. I'll tell you in the next slide. But simply, you will add all the predictive statements as hypothesis. Then you may ask me a question. Sir, what is the need of hypothesis when we have objectives? Please make be very clear. Hypotheses are used only when you are using statistical analysis. If you do not use hypothesis, if you do not use statistical analysis, there is no necessity for you to add hypothesis. Better you can restrict within yourself within objectives and research questions. But if you use statistical tools like SPSS, RStudio, and other thing, then hypotheses are generally used. And one more thing, go back to my second day lecture. Hypotheses are used in quantitative research approach. When you deal with numbers, when you analyze, when you take the data, when you collect the data as a kind of input as a data, that time you use hypothesis. But in the qualitative research, again you can use hypothesis, but that may not be tested based on the statistical analysis, but it can be either proven or disproven through your observation, focused group interview, or ethnography. That's why generally in the qualitative research, they don't give hypothesis. Very rare. But in the quantitative, obviously, it what you call it runs on hypothesis. That's a additional learning to you. And that's why you have to be clear about which type of you are using. You look at there, I have given, especially when you use the research method or a design called experiment, observations, when you use these kind of design, obviously the hypothesis will come. Okay, and how do you accept and reject the hypothesis? I'll tell you with maybe after 2 to 3 slides. Now let me tell you how to write hypothesis. Previously, I was telling you about the variables. In the beginning, we started with variable. That is different, because you may wonder, sir, why did you give variable? Because without variables, you cannot write a hypothesis. The base to write a hypothesis is variables. Look at here. Let me give again. There is a significant relationship between YouTube videos and pronunciation. This is my hypothesis. There is a significant impact of YouTube videos in pronunciation. This is hypothesis statement H1. We call this H, not H1, H0. Sorry, H1 is the alternate hypothesis. H0 is a null hypothesis. Then I would say there is no relationship, there is no impact of YouTube videos in pronunciation. This is the null hypothesis. Normally, whatever you say negative, when you bring out the negative relationship, that is called null hypothesis. When you say positive relationship, that is a what you call alternate hypothesis. These two things. And now you come here and you can have given some other example. So we are saying that there is a relationship between YouTube video and pronunciation. Here the two variables are involved. One is YouTube video, another one is pronunciation. Now, which variable impact the other variable? We discussed in detail. Independent variable and dependent variable. Generally, independent variable only creates impact on dependent variable. Now, how do you study that impact? How do you know that it is creating impact? I know that I use YouTube video and you use YouTube video. And how will you measure what kind of impact it has created? We know that there may be impact. How do you measure it? One is cause, another one is effect. That is, the YouTube video is affecting the pronunciation. How? How will you measure? How will you prove that? There only comes data. You have to collect the data from the student respondents. How do you collect it? For that, one more component involves here questionnaire. You use some questionnaire or a testing tool to collect the data. For instance, you give 10 words, 10 words. And let me tell you one, let me type it, you just to pronounce. Just a minute. Okay. Shall I tell you the spelling? Can you pronounce it? B-U-F-F-E-T. Just write the word in your notebook. B-U-F-F-E-T. And except English teachers, I want other teachers to pronounce this. No English teacher should pronounce this.
So it's buffet.
Okay. Anybody else? Somebody from
Buffet. Buffet.
Buffet.
Buffet.
Buffet. Okay.
Fit.
Buffet.
Buffet.
Buffet. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Buffet.
Actual pronunciation is buffet. It is not buffet. It is not buffet. It is buffet. The last T is silent letter. For instance, you take, how do you learn this pronunciation? How will you, in case a teacher teaches in the class, there are 10 or millions of more than 1.5 million words are there in English. Is it possible to teach everything in the class? Definitely not possible. Then how would you ensure that students learn pronunciation properly? Here I say that you watch YouTube videos every day, watch 15 minutes YouTube video. Then the student sometime, maybe in some certain YouTube video, I say that I ask them to watch only native speaking English YouTube video. Probably in some context, they could have come across the word buffet and they could have thought that is a buffet. And especially you should ask the student in the beginner, means you should ask them to watch with subtitle. So it will come as buffet as you read, but actually the speaker will pronounce as buffet. Then you will come to know that, okay, this word is not buffet, this is buffet. So this exposure he will acquire from the particular video. So now I'm giving 10, I have given one example. Like this buffet, I give 10 words to you. I ask you to pronounce. I'll make it, whether it is right or wrong, I'll note down it. Then I give you YouTube video. Then after that, I give another 10 words. Some random or the same word. Then will there be any improvement? If there is an improvement, then I would conclude that there is an impact. I can confirm that there is an impact of YouTube video in the pronunciation. Now, based on the score, out of 10, there are 50 participants. Out of 50, I'll calculate the score. Then I'll say that mean is average. Average score before YouTube videos, when I gave the words, the mispronunciation is 8 words. But after watching the YouTube videos, the mispronunciation is only 6 words. That means they have improved to 20% improvement is there because of YouTube video. This is how I would prove. This simply I cannot say as a mere statement. There only the statistical tool comes into picture. So all this data will be fed into the statistical tool like SPSS. They'll compare. Especially for hypothesis testing, there are 2 to 3 options available. One is chi-square test. Another one is ANOVA, single-way ANOVA, double-way, two-way ANOVA, multiple ANOVA. Those things, it is based on the data you collect. Any one of the tools would be used. For instance, if you take the English ELT research people, most of the time they'll use chi-square. That's a basic thing that is more than enough. But if you go to business school research, they will use even multiple regression analysis, SEM analysis. These are advanced statistical tools. Based on the different hypotheses and the objective, they'll decide which particular tool they need to use. So here, you based on the data you collected from the sample, then you will decide which tool you need to use, which particular statistical method you need to use. Then finally, you will come to a conclusion. Okay, then you may ask me the question, sir, how do I exactly know which particular tool I am supposed to use? See, there is no one answer fitting to everybody question. It is based on the objectives you fix. It is based on the variables you have used. It is based on the particular setup you are following for your research design. Then only it can be fixed which particular statistical tool you can use. There are multiple variables involved. That time, instead of going to the single way ANOVA, even you go to multiple ANOVA, or even you go to higher advanced statistical tools. But still, before we normally know, none of us, including me, we can directly do the statistical analysis on our own. Always we need help from statistician. So when we present the data to the statistician, a professor is statistics, somebody who is expert in it, he will clearly, after analyzing the data we provide to him, he will inform us what are the statistical analysis can be performed. He will give a clear picture. In case we want specific certain statistical analysis, then he will ask us to take the data in a specific format. Then we need to take the data in that format. Then he'll be able to perform the particular test. Then he'll give the result to us. So you need to rely on the statistician to conduct the research, but you need to know how does you operate, how does it works. You need to know clearly how do you operate. Also, you have to have a clear idea. But they'll educate us with certain basic information. If it comes like this and that, all those things they'll tell you. But before that, you must have a clear idea. Why are you using these things, and why not? Why should you? Why are not? Why are you using? Why can't you avoid this particular hypothesis or statistical tool? If you ask these questions to the statistician, he will give you the answer based on the data you collected, based on the objective fixed. Then he will tell you these are the reason why we have selected this tool. These are the reason why we have selected this hypothesis, testing hypothesis, and finally he'll tell you that you can go ahead or that particular point. So for that, before you can, in case you involve in statistical tools, I would advise you don't collect the data immediately. Before even collecting the data, you should discuss with the statistical professor or a statistician. After his guidance, then fix exactly your hypothesis. Based on that, then you go for the data collection. Because you collect the data in one format that may not fit into the hypothesis you have fixed already. So even before the data collection, you must sit with the statistician for a discussion. Based on his discussion, input, then you go for a data collection. That will be a good. Otherwise, you have to redo the work. You could have done a voluminous work, but the statistician will say that, no, the data is fine, but I cannot run the test as you are asking. I want the data in different format. Then you have to go again, you have to collect the data. So be very cautious in that point. After discussing with the statistician, then you go ahead for the data collection. Clear? Yeah, these are the three ways you can write hypothesis. See, I have said already, there is a difference between, that's a one way of writing the thing. That's a comparing the difference. But here you look at that, you can write a hypothesis as a if statement. If first year students attend more lectures, their exam score will improve. This is hypothesis. You can fix hypothesis in the if statement. If you listen my lecture well, you will understand research methodology clearly. This is my statement. Then how do we test it? So if in case we have conducted a pre-test before you start attending my lecture, my FTB. After the FTB, there will be a test. Again, you will answer it. Then in case you answered more question than the pre-test, the pre-test and post-test will generally involve. And then finally, you can analyze, you can study the impact of my lectures in your understanding the research methodology. So that you can write in this way. If first year students attend more lecture, their exam score will improve, means in the similar fashion you can write the hypothesis. That hypothesis is called if then form. Yeah. Next comes in the terms of correlation or effects. The number of classes has effect on understanding. Even you can fix the hypothesis like this. The number of classes has effect, or the number of classes has not have effect. So this is the another way to write the hypothesis. Third one, here it's a typographical error. It's a more number of classes. The more number of class has better effect than less number of classes. The more number of class has better effect than less number of class. So is there any hard and fast rule that you have to write only one particular form? You can write in any form. It depends upon which is convenient to you. Then you have to go with the thing. But these are the different types of writing hypothesis. Even there is one more format writing hypothesis. There is an impact of YouTube videos on the students' communication. Without comparing anything, straight away also you can write as a statement. Again, you can say there is impact or there is no impact. So in that way also you can write. That's a fourth type of writing hypothesis. So these three are the one more widely used thing is there is that is called relationship form. There is a relationship between YouTube videos and pronunciation. There is a relationship between parents' education and students' communication skill. There is a relationship between online reviews and the online reviews and online sales. There is a relationship between job satisfaction and teachers' performance. There is a relationship between students' extracurricular activities and his mental well-being. In that way, you can compare two components, two variables. That time you use there is a relationship or there is no relationship. That statement. That is a commonly, probably most of you could have come across only those type of hypothesis. But this also accepted, you can write in any form, whichever is convenient to you. And variables thing we have already, I have clearly told you the things. Now, how to develop a hypothesis, I have given certain idea already. And hypothesis cannot be formulated before you fix the research question. First, to fix the research question, that research question has to be fixed based on a preliminary research and review. After that, only you will be able to formulate the hypothesis. So, from hypothesis only, the question can be. A lot of people they think that shall I fix the first hypothesis, then research question can I frame? You can, but actual methodology is you should write the question objectives, then question, then based on the question you can fix the hypothesis. Sometimes people do vice versa. If you can do that, in my advice would be first to fix the research question, then develop a hypothesis. That's a small because that's how I train my students. Okay, so here is a question: do students who attend more lectures get better exam results? That's what already I have given one hypothesis also. Based on the question, then you can go with the frame the hypothesis on the 4 model of writing hypothesis. You can do anything. Okay, now. Okay, can someone tell me, using the relationship type of writing hypothesis, that is, there is no relationship in that way, how would you convert this question? Do students who attend more lectures get better exam results? How would you write in that way? Using the type which I have introduced, there is no relationship between so and so, so and so. That way, how would you write hypothesis for the given research question?
Yes, we can write an hypothesis like students attending lectures can do well in the exams.
Okay, that's a very good. That's a statement way of writing hypothesis. Okay, very good. Another way, someone else you can try. There is a relationship that way. It starts like this. There is a relationship that way. How will you start and write your hypothesis to fit into this question?
Sir, I think there is no relationship. It would be like there is no relationship between exam results and the number of lectures attended by a student.
Okay, very good, very good. It can be okay. And now let me common discussion. What's your opinion commonly? Do you think that students are scoring better only because of the lectures?
No, sir.
Not really.
No,
So
sir.
here it will be a very tricky hypothesis. It can be an alternate. Either the hypothesis can be rejected or it can be proven. But the original data may bring some surprising element. We know that there are students what is the percentage of the student they listen well in the class? How many of them they take the original cues from a teacher's lecture to write exam? And obviously it's a $1 million question. And if you ask in generally, the student write, especially in the college level, they study on their own, especially they prepare in the 11th hour, they write. So that time probably our hypothesis of more lectures would produce better results may be proven wrong. It can be proven wrong. But we may not know exactly, but based on the data, probably majority and minority only, it will come to the picture. That time you will take mean, median, average you will take. Out of 50 students, how many say that it has impact? How many say it doesn't have impact? Apart, based on that, you will either prove and disprove the hypothesis based on the statistical analysis. Yeah, somebody wants to say something. Yes, go ahead.
Sir, there is a ambiguity of answer by the students.
Hmm.
So, how to remove it from during our questionnaire?
No, see, you will ask responses to the student only with the two way. One is there is an impact, there is no impact. When you collect the data for this statistical analysis from a respondent, you won't give an open-ended question. They will not write in a descriptive writing. Simply, they select either a yes or no type question or a Likert scale question. Based on that only, finally you will score it. You will identify the average, that is called mean. Based on the mean, then statistically it will be fed into the SPSS. That will tell you that is called identifying, measuring the significance of error. Based on that, they'll tell you if the significant value is 0.005. If it is less than that, the hypothesis either will be rejected or accepted. That's based on the statistical tool. It is there. Even I'm not very good at, because it's a mathematical formula. But the statistician will clearly tell us whether this hypothesis is accepted or rejected. So there is no point for ambiguity. But ambiguity will come instead of taking the Likert scale questionnaire or yes or no type questionnaire. If you give open-ended question, then it will create a problem. That's why even before you collect the data, you should have a clarity which type of questionnaire you need to use to collect the data. Got it?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, this is number one. Next thing. This preliminary research, if you have followed my last lecture about literature review, obviously you'll get a clarity. There you know the theories and the concepts of framework, what they have used, and how the previous early researches they have conducted, how they have framed the hypothesis, what kind of statistical tool they have used also, you will get a clarity. Then it will help you to fix the, what you call, a present hypothesis. And other thing, how to get a clear idea what you are doing today. That is this whole series of FTPs again to educate you, because your college has taken effort to bring somebody to tell you all the basics so that you will get understanding. So that may again give you a kind of a good idea to formulate your hypothesis, research question, objective, and everything, because this expert input will clear a lot of doubts. You will become clear head. So obviously you will be able to do the things properly. And last one is the refining your hypothesis. Always you need to make sure that your hypothesis is specific and testable. That's what already I told you. You need to know clearly what parameter you are going to collect the data. Will there be an option for you to use the statistical tool? All those things. Even you cannot fix the hypothesis, collect the data, that never works. You should discuss with the statistician, then our expert, not necessarily a statistician, a guide. If he knows it very well, he will guide you, because there is no fixed answer for this thing. Based on your objective and the field and the study type, they'll tell you, then you have to go ahead. And the variables also you need to fix. How many variables you have? See, there are so many variables are there. Sometimes they'll fix what you call SEM analysis, multiple regression analysis. They'll try to plot all the variables and the impact within the one chart. That's a bit complicated. I don't want to explain in detail, but these are you can call it as an advanced statistical analysis. So that you can decide based on the number of variables you use and what you call number of the hypothesis. You have many, and that time it made the study may demand such kind of advanced statistical tools. And the another one is the predicted outcome of the experiment. Why? See, you are doing, you fixed a topic that online reviews have positive impact on the online sales. You know clearly. Now you need to prove it's a prediction, but you want to prove your prediction. So you need to collect the data accordingly. 90% you think that definitely there is impact, because we know certain things we know clearly. Whether somebody says that reading newspaper will have impact on vocabulary improvement, obviously. So here, if you fix the hypothesis, there is impact of the newspaper is impacting the vocabulary improvement, obviously. But for here, what you need to do is only thing you have to statistically prove. This hypothesis is well defined here. The only thing you need to prove it. Okay, see, whenever we say something, it's a mere statement. Unless and until it is proved through statistics, nothing is scientifically accepted. I can say as a teacher of English for the last 20 years, I have experienced so many things, so I can tell something from my experience. But is it proven scientifically? Means no, because I have not conducted a research, but I'm simply saying out of my experience. That cannot be considered as a research. That can be considered as an expert opinion. But if you want to confirm it with the research, you should conduct, do analysis, and prove it. My statement is correct or wrong. But simply saying that thing, it never comes under the testing. It goes with the expert opinion. Right? This one already I have given, so let me skip. That's what already. This also I have told you the types of hypothesis: null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis. And null means negative, alternate is positive. I think these are so many other hypotheses are there, but I don't want you to give more than enough. Okay. Now, please give a closer look at this slide. The same component has been fit into research question, hypothesis, and null hypothesis. Look at there. Here the question, what are the health benefits of eating an apple a day? So here hypothesis is given. Increasing apple consumption in over 60s will result in decreasing frequency of doctor visit. So for this, one hypothesis is written. The same thing if it is a null hypothesis, increasing apple consumption in over 60s will have no effect. No effect. Only it's a null means negative. Look at this one. Can flexible work arrangements improve job satisfaction? Employees who have flexible working hours will report greater job satisfaction than employees who work fixed hours. It's alternate hypothesis. Null hypothesis, there is no relationship between working hour, flexibility, and job satisfaction. So a very frequently used model of hypothesis is hypothesis are alternate and null hypothesis. Many of the people, they use it. But in business MBA and the business studies, they use very different types of hypothesis also, since they'll have more clarity on that thing. And normally if you take English and other humanities and all, they'll go with null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis only. Okay, next thing. Yeah, this one already I have told you. Yeah. With this, let me stop here, and I will go to the sampling. Then I'll go for the question and answer session. Sampling, just a minute. Is my slide visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how to decide the sample size for this research study? See, generally, the types of sampling are there. There are many, but let me restrict only to three: probability sampling and non-probability sampling. Probability and non-probability. In the probability, there are certain divisions, and non-probability is certain division. But first, I'll finish this one. Then I'll talk about that. If the time doesn't permit, I'll share you at the end. I'll give you some other link of my video where you can know about those things in detail also. First thing you have to know, these are the main factors to determine the sample size. First thing, you should know the population size. Then what is the expected margin of errors, the confidence level, standard deviation, Z score, then sample size formula. These are the basic factors you need to involve to determine the sample size. Don't worry, I'll explain one by one. Okay. Population size. See, population and sample both are not same. Both are different. Very simple. When you say that the population means the entire students, but you say that the impact of YouTube videos on Students communication. It's a student means which student? There are many. Is it a school student? And again, in the school means whether kindergarten or primary or high school, higher secondary or junior college, senior college, whatever the thing. So you have to be very clear. Population is a large segment. The size is completely unknown. Population may not be known because it will be very huge. But sample within that population, for instance, the students, you take only college students. The impact of YouTube video in the college students' pronunciation. Again, college student is a very so many different types of colleges are there. Then you restrict arts college. Again, you restrict probably only commerce college, or again further restrict only the commerce college in Maharashtra. Further, you restrict commerce college in your district, for example, in Pune district, or something like that. Then you restrict commerce student in Prerna College of Commerce in your college. So the large population will in what you call include the entire thing people. That's called population. Sample is you will pick from that population some portion. Assume that in again your college there are 2,000 students. I assume that you cannot take all the 2,000 students. You need to select only around 60 students. Assume that is your required sample size. How would you select the sample? Here only comes sampling technique or types of sampling. Two major categories: purposive sampling, non-purposive sampling. Purposive sampling means purposely select only few students, purposely selecting few colleges. It's convenient for the researchers that they do. But in case everything goes with the purposive sampling, if it is a very voluminous study, purposive sampling is not recommended. If the sample size is very less, purposive sampling is good. Fine, no problem. See, you are going to do a case study. You want to study the in-depth analysis of the student communication errors. You select only 10 students from your class out of 60. That's fine, no problem. It's a purposive sampling. But you want to generalize the entire population's common error, then you cannot select only 10 students. You cannot generalize this is a final thing, because in-depth analysis, it's fine. But general thing, you have to analyze the large population, then only you'll be able to do that thing. So whenever you want to have a more general kind of generalization, you have to go with a large sampling. Sampling, we have two types. Large sampling, even you can call it a three types. Large sampling, medium sampling, and the less probably short sampling. But the sample is more means the reliability of the score is high. So always you should aim for more samples. You should never aim for the less sample. Got it? So now the difference between population and the sample I have established. Prerna College is a population and only specific department is the sample. Because from the overall thing, you will select one particular thing. There you will have two things. For example, purposive sampling you select for, okay, may I know there are 50 people attending this FTB. What is your total strength of your college faculty strength?
Sir, almost 16. Total, I think so. Total faculties will be including junior and senior will be the almost 70 to 80.
Okay, fine. So now, out of 70 people, I assume that 50 to 55 are attending. So how did they select this 55? Here it comes, it is not a research, it's a normal thing, a purposive sampling. How? All senior teachers attend. Those who are doing PhD attend. Some kind of particular parameter comes into the picture. We cannot allow all the 70. So then we'll say that only these people come. So the same way, if you select based on certain parameter for your research work, then selecting the sample for the research work, that is called purposive sampling. Now, you don't want to select it that way. You want to give opportunity to everyone. All the 70 are given open choice, but you have only 50 slots for this FTP. How will you select? There may be different method. Random choosing. That's called random sampling. Randomly saying that these people come and attend. One way. Stratified random sampling. Within that random, using certain purpose. For example, lottery method or some number method. You say that send a Google form. First come, first serve basis. those who have filled the form first, within the first 50 rank, all of them are allowed. That's one way. Or otherwise, say that you number all the 70. You tell them all the odd numbers people can attend, even number cannot attend. It's called numbering. It's a one of the techniques in sampling. What you call using the sample, selecting the sample. And another one is you say that certain lottery method means that's what you will put a lottery kind of a thing. They'll pick the lottery, then they'll say that these people will be added into the thing. That is added into the study. But then there is one more criteria called inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria. What I have already told you in the first thing, out of 70 teachers, those who are senior teachers are attending this FTB, junior teachers are not attending. Here inclusive criteria is senior, exclusive criteria is junior. So you fix certain rule. Based on that rule, you will either add them or you will remove them. Because the reason is, it is not possible for you to take entire people. Similarly, same thing is applicable for research. You cannot take the entire student for research, entire sample for the research there, so that the sample is the representation of the population. There are so many people, but this sample is the representative. For instance, let me give you an example. You appoint one student as a class representative or a class leader. Why do you appoint him? That's a purposive selection. You use a democratic thing. You apply, whoever wants to become a class leader, you apply. Then we'll have a committee. The committee will decide will finalize the person. That's another way method. So here, in case sometime you don't ask the student to apply, only class teacher will select a student. He will appoint him as a class leader. That is a purposive sampling. But instead of having the appointing directly, asking the student democratically and asking them to apply, then use the certain selection procedure that may come in stratified sampling or stratified random sampling. This is one rough example. So now be clear about what is population, what is sample, random sampling, stratified random sampling, and purposive sampling. Purposive and random is a two major category. Within that random, I said stratified, non-stratified. Then purposive, it's obviously there is only one option. So this is the total representation. In the whole population, we'll select only a particular some amount only. And this one. See, the margin of errors, confidence interval, I think these are the things you may get a bit confused. So let me tell you, there is a absolute rule for this margin of error. Plus or minus 5%, that is the judge score. If it is plus or minus 5% is fine, it is accepted. The population is correct. The determining sample is fine. But if it is more than that, your sample is wrong. When the margin of error, after doing the statistical analysis, we'll identify the margin of error. The margin of error goes more than 5% or plus or minus. Obviously, what you call up to 5%, it is fine. If it goes more than 5%, and it is not accepted. So these things, as a common layman, you may not know, but when you give it to the statistician, and he will tell you. And I'll introduce you one online tool to determine the sample size. It will automatically calculate and tell you the error size. That's no need to worry. And yeah, confidence level is the larger your sample size, the more confident you can be that their answers truly reflect the population. Why? See, when you select the less sample, they may not truly represent the actual population. That's the reason always try to have the more number of sample, because there won't be any error and they will truly reflect the actual requirement of the particular population. And here again, this is another separate test you have to use. It is called confident testing the interval. It should be 90% confident, 95% confident, 99% confident. But you cannot have the confident level less than this. If you say that 85%, you can set up when you fix the data, sample size. But most widely used level is 95%. 95% confident level should be used when you determine the sample size. And I'll tell you how it is there in the online tool. Standard deviation, again, there is a thing, 0.5. is the deviation. For example, there are 3 components involved in the particular variable score. Assume that 3 score. Each and let me come to your classroom. So you evaluate the exam paper. One student scores 100, another student scores 0, another student scores 40. This is the normal way it may happen. It is called equal different distribution. But everybody in the class score 80 and above. All the students of your class. Only one student scores 0. Definitely your evaluation is wrong. Because how it is possible for everybody to score 80 and above? So here the confidence level is wrong. The standard deviation, one student and another student deviation should be in controlled level. Or else I say that one student say that's what 100, another student 80, another student 60, another student 40. There is accepted level of distribution. In a class, there may be a equal distribution 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30. That way it can equally, in all the spheres, it can be distributed. But the entire students fit into the category of 50 to 60. Assume that entire student score out of 50 students in our class, 45 students scored between 50 to 59. Then it means that you have given a liberal evaluation, or you made a point that you pass every student. That's why you just pushed them into 50 and above. And in case you say that every student failed between 30 to 40 or less than 30, then you have not taught them properly, or student didn't understand anything. So the actual distribution should be, the deviation can be, see, 1 or 2 students in the very low, maybe 10 even 0, 1 or 2, 3, 4 students in the top, and 80, 90, 100, some student in the 70s, some student in the 60s, some in that way it can be distributed. It's fine. If your exam marks is distributed in all the 10 levels, that is 0 to 10, 10, 11 to 20, in that way, then you have taught very well, you have set up a question paper very well, you have evaluated the things very well. In case one particular accumulation on one particular area means either your question is wrong, or else your evaluation is wrong, or you have not covered the portion, or you have not, something is wrong. That is what it will tell you in the sampling. The standard deviation is more means your questionnaire is not correct, and there may be some fundamental error in the questionnaire because it gives more standard deviation. See, again, you look at the word deviation. There are certain amount of deviation is allowed. That is called standard deviation. That's what is 0.5. If it is more than that, absolutely the standard deviation score is more means your questionnaire is absolutely, it is not standard one. And you have to test, for example, when you present it in your research, your standard deviation is instead of 0.5, you present more, then it may not be accepted. They'll ask you to recheck and redo the work because it is not within the accepted level of standard deviation. Again, who will identify this? Statistics. Only statistical test will identify this standard deviation. And you have to find your JET score. For example, this is what the JET score for 90% means. 1.645 is the JET score. 95. See, the more JET score is very good. The less JET score, it's very less. That's what. If you go below 90%, the score will come down even less than 1.5. But it is not a standard one. They may not agree. So always the JET score of above 1.96 and above is always very good one. And 1.645, this is some places it is accepted, but the safe zone is 95%. Yeah, this is what the sample size formulae mathematically you have to use. Even I'm going to tell you the online tool. The same formula has been automated. Once you enter the sample size, it will create and it will tell you clear things. So the JET score, standard deviation, and after that 1 minus standard deviation, then confidence interval, all these different scores will be identified in the statistics. Then it will be used in the sample size formula. Then your sample size will be determined. Yeah, here is an example. Sample size is the JET score into 2. Then standard deviation into what you call 1 minus standard deviation, then margin of error is 2. In that way, if you look at this one, what is the first one? Sample size, then Z score, standard deviation, margin of error. Finally, they calculate, they'll tell you the final score. Yeah, here, look at there. There are 3 parameters has been used. The confidence level is 95%. Standard deviation is 0.5. Margin of error or confidence interval is plus or minus 5%. Using this formula, they have given, if they take certain example, the final thing will be the 385. If you go with that, I'll show you the example. Just a minute. Just simply you can Google it, no need to worry. Just I'm going to open the Google and I'll tell you calculate Z score. Yeah, just simply you calculate Z score. Yeah, look at there. And there is a fixed Z table means also available. This one, if it is 2.5, what will be there things. But there is a one more easy thing is there. Just a minute, I'll tell you the another one that you will understand quite comfortably. Yeah, simply go to the sample size calculator. Yeah, look at there. Confidence level 95%, margin of error 5%, population proportion you can 50% is a commonly you can use. Here assume that in your college there are 1,000 students. Now, what is the sample you should take minimum? Just I'm giving calculate. Yeah, look at here. Sample size required is 278. In case instead of 1,000 I give 100, I give it. The sample size required is 80. But when you have more sample, after a certain point of time, the sample size will be the same. I already have given 1,000, now let me give 10,000. I give calculate. Look at there. For 1,000, it was 278. But 10,000, only adding another 100, 370. That's it. So after that, the change will not be there. See, within some level, only the size will be will increase. But if you go to the very large sample and all, the actual requirement will be within 500 only. So you can no need to have 10,000 student means should I take all 50%? Not necessary. That's what you can use this. Simply check calculation, determining the sample size. That will help you to know exactly how much thing you have to, how much sample you have to select it. Okay, I hope I have done all those things. Now let me stop and you can ask me the questions. So we have checked the variables. And we have known about control independent variable and dependent variable, hypothesis, how to select a hypothesis, refer hypothesis, write hypothesis, how to select variables also, then sample, difference between sample and population, how to determine the sampling size, and sample type. I have broadly told you that purposive sampling and non-purposive sampling. That's then random and purposive. In the random, you have stratified and non-stratified random sampling. Most of the time, people use non-stratified random sampling. And all those things, you will come to know exactly which type of thing you have to use after fixing your objective. fixing the hypothesis, then the statistician will guide you to do that thing, because that requires lots of other detail to exactly answer your question. Got it? Okay, let me stop here and you can throw me questions.
So that sample size is the minimum sample size, right? If I say if 278 is the sample size, and if I select 200, will that be okay?
Sorry, 270? Come again?
If the sample size, if I have calculated, and the sample size comes out to be 278, and if I have selected 500, then is it wrong?
No, not wrong. Actually, it is of not necessary, because it will be a time-consuming process. When you do when you conduct the research, it will unnecessarily lose the time. But it's not wrong. See, when you have samples more than required, it is always very good. But practically speaking, you need to collect the data from all 500. You have to code, and it is an unnecessarily time-consuming process. So always do whatever is required. But it is not wrong if you have more than required. Yeah. Any other questions? If there are, yeah.
So, like, if I'm writing a research paper, and let us say the population is, let us say, 100. And, for these 100 population, also I have to find out all the confidence level.
Yes. See, whatever the confidence level, margin of error, standard deviation, that has to be used for everyone. In case out of 100, you are going to select more than 50%, you don't need to do anything, because when the population is 100%, but you have selected already 50% of the population as a sample, you don't need to worry, because everything will be perfect. But only when you have less, 1,000, but you have selected only 100, that time you need to know whether your selection of sample is correct. But when you have 50%, blindly you can go ahead, no problem will come, because normally 20% sample is required. People used to say, if you take sociology, psychology and all, they say 20% minimum required. But without calculating the JET score, they may take 20%. But you have more than, whenever it is less, for example, out of 60, you selected 30, means no question, everything is perfect, because you are going to work on the population of 60, but whereas you have selected 50%, that is perfectly fine. Yeah, any other question? Yeah. Asis Gupta, do you have any question? Because it says hands raised.
No, sir.
Okay, fine. No, can you someone tell me? Did you get it clarity? Because yes, go ahead.
Sir, if the topic is role of globalization in shaping the multicultural world as reflected in Z. Smith's fictional opera, then it is a literature's topic. What will be the variables in this particular topic? I repeat the topic, role of
No,
globalization.
I got it. See, literature thing, you don't use variable. Here, as already told you, it is a qualitative study. The qualitative, the variable will never come into the picture. Straight away, you do the theoretical analysis.
But as we have discussed that impact, dependent and independent variable, so here I found that globalization is affecting the multicultural setting
Very good.
of
See,
London.
here you are not going to collect any data. Instead, you are going to refer the incidences which you identify in the novel. Then you try to connect that these are the reflection of the globalization. So when you want to fix the hypothesis and other thing, you need to collect the real-time data from the people, from the sample. Here, it's your interpretation. How do you interpret? There are cues for the globalization. Based on that cues, you call it as a certain theory. Then you take the theoretical base, then you apply to the work, then you prove that these are the cues of the globalization. That's why I say this particular writer has used the globalization as an important phenomenon in his writing. So the literature topic, you will never use variable, hypothesis, testing, error, nothing will come in. There comes theory. How do you decide the theory? What kind of approach you use? Those things will vary. Probably, I'll tell you in maybe 1 or 2 days later. I'll talk about theories in the research. There, I'll give a detailed explanation. But the hypothesis, testing, score, nothing will come in the literary research.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. If there are no questions, we can wind up.
Oh, excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Which kind of theory we have to use in literature?
Nature.
Literature, English literature.
Yeah, there are many theories, not limited to not limited to. There are many theories, because, for example, environmental humanities, disability studies, post-colonial literature, many. There are many. So if you put it, 10 to 15 will come. You need to decide which one you wanted to select, and based on your objective, you have to fix it up. That is I cannot fix only one thing. See, my ambition is to work on eco-critical study. Then you have to go with the eco-criticism. And if you want to work on the medical narratives, then you have to go to the graphic medicine, medical narrative, medical humanities, and other theories related to that thing. So it depends. There is no fixed rule. It depends upon the field you work in. Based on the subfield, you have to decide. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening.
Sir, my PhD topic is effect of promotional strategy on consumer behavior with
Okay.
special reference to consumer durables in Nagpur region.
Okay.
Sir, can you help me to find out variables in this topic, sir?
Repeat the topic.
Effect of promotional strategy on consumer
Yeah.
behavior.
Here you have promotional strategies. There may be many promotional strategies. Each strategy can be independent variable.
Okay.
Then you say that consumer effect of promotional strategies on consumer
Behavior.
consumer behavior is a dependent variable.
Okay.
So you assume that there are 10 promotional strategies. You will study which strategy is better, which strategy is good or bad, and then you will have for instance, you say that giving bonus as the promotional strategy, will it affect the job satisfaction? Then bonus is one independent variable. So you have to identify. How can you identify those variables? When you do the literature review, already researchers, they could have used to so many strategies. From that, you can take one or two. Then you can devise your own strategies also. That will become a new variable.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think we can stop with this because already it's 5:20 today. Yeah.
Okay, I guess there are no queries from any other participants, and now we can wind up for sure, sir. Have a very good evening, Rajasekaran, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Bye for now. Thank you, sir.